This week on The Motor Show, we're invited into actor Leslie Grantham's garage, the American Car Club who admire all things old and British, and the 2 mile per gallon family cars, which are now Thunder Saloons. You've seen me drive a seemingly endless parade of cars for The Motor Show, but perhaps you've wondered what I personally drive in real life. A sporty turbo, a posy 4x4. No, for the past 2 years or so, this has been my four-wheeled friend. A Jaguar XJ6. No, it's not a new one. The private number plate could hide a multitude of sins, but buying a limo second-hand is often the only way many of us could get to own one. So in this week's group test, we're looking at luxury second-hand biggies from a variety of vendors. To help, we've enlisted Ivor Carroll, a motoring journalist who specialises in the used car market and who's been writing about second-hand cars for over 10 years. The first car we located was an F-Reg BMW 525i SE. With 39,000 miles on the clock, it came with a year's guarantee, and BMW main dealers Williams of Manchester were asking £11,995.
Basically, this car new today would cost you nearly £30,000, and the price that we've got it up at the moment, as you can see, it's taken its initial depreciation. Therefore, the resale value of this vehicle over the next 2 to 3 years will be tremendously good.
A classic BMW drive, smooth, seductive, yet sporty. But what did Ivor think?
It's a very realistic price for this mileage, which is 39,000 miles. Smashing condition, as you can see, inside and out. Obviously a very genuine car, and I wouldn't mind it myself at that price.
But main dealers are expensive for a second-hand buyer.
You can always buy the same car cheaper at an auction or through a private sale, but this is convenient. The cars are all here for you to look at. It's also inherently risk-free. There are no outstanding HP agreements on the cars. You can be sure that they're not rebuilt, written-off cars. And you have the convenience that you can point out any defects on the car that you don't like, ask the dealer to put them straight, free of charge, and he's very unlikely to quibble. You can't do that through a private sale.
For our next luxury candidate, we went not to a main, but a specialist dealer. Manchester's Peter Street collection was asking just under £9,000 for this C-Reg Mercedes 280 SE Auto with 70,000 on the clock. But they provided some all-important paperwork.
The car comes with a full Mercedes-Benz service history, which also lists who's owned it, so you know it's had 2 owners, you know who they are.
So 9,000 with the service
Yes.
booklet, what would it be worth without?
Possibly 7 or 6.5, as much as that.
Like BMW, Mercedes depreciate relatively slowly, but it's still important to take a test drive.
It's not light, but it's not heavy at all.
No.
It's.
I mean, you're aware of the size?
Yes, you are, but I think you need to be, don't you?
Yes.
So do you think people are thinking longer-term quality with the recession on, so they don't have to keep buying a new car?
Absolutely. The Mercedes, the classic cars, last a long time if they're looked after.
Though it's now discontinued, Ivor told us this model wasn't yet a classic.
They don't make the 280. I think it was 1987 that they replaced it with the 300 SE, which to all intents and purposes is the same car with the same 6-cylinder engine just bored out to 3 litres. The power's the same, performance is the same, so it doesn't really make any difference. So it's not actually a rare car. I'd have given it a forecourt price of around 7.5, maybe a bit less in view of the fact that it wasn't perfect. There was a bit of rust and damp in the boot, the wheels were tatty, so they're pushing the price a bit too far, I think.
Another specialist dealer was offering number 3 in our luxury lineup. Bauer Millet of Deansgate was selling a 74 N-Reg XJ12 with only 16,000 on the clock for just £7,750. For an ordinary punter, an attractive price.
It's something unusual, something your next door neighbour hasn't got. For the £7,000 you're going to pay for this car, what could you buy today? A Fiesta? It isn't very economical, but I think today you would probably only do 3,000 or 4,000 miles a year with this car, Eamon. And the pleasure it would give you, the silence, the ride, you'll get a feel for the car.
It's beautiful to drive, it's very easy to drive, and it is luxury motoring. My inclination would be, if I had the money, to buy it and put it under wraps for 10, 15 years as a classic car.
I think it's worth every penny of the £7,000 that's being asked for it because it's an original example. It's not, as far as I can tell, been restored. It's not been repaired bodily. Because there are slight marks which testify to its originality, that actually helps it. It's not perfect, but it's near perfect, and that's what gives it its value.
But the years roll back and the miles roll on for our next sample of budget luxury. A 1986 C-Reg Ford Granada Gear 2.8i Auto. It was being offered after 96,000 miles by private seller David Rawlinson of Wythenshawe.
Of course, it's advisable never to meet a private seller other than at their home address in case there's a problem later. Now, I've already seen the car at his home, and here's my man for a test drive. Hi, David.
Hi.
Why are you selling the car?
I'm being made redundant.
Oh, yeah, that's a shame. So is that why you're not going for a trade-in?
That's right, yeah. Yeah, I'm basically just getting rid of the car. My wife already has a car, so we're reduced to a one-car family.
And a bus pass, maybe. It's very stately to drive, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely. Feels solid, comfortable on the road.
Yeah, it does, but not too huge.
No, no.
You know, I'm normally a mini driver, and although I drive a lot of different cars for the show, I'm always surprised when big cars actually feel very manageable.
But Ivor had some bad news for David.
Granadas have rock-bottom residuals when they're that age. The price he's asking would perhaps even be a little bit over the top if it was in perfect nick, which it isn't. It's got rust problems around the rear wheel arches, over two of the doors. It's got a couple of dings in the panels, and it has done 96,000 miles. He's being optimistic, but then private sellers stab at a price and expect to be negotiated down, so hopefully that's what he's trying to do.
Why do they depreciate so badly? Is it all about the badge on the front?
No, I think it's about the size of the engine. I think people are worried that fuel costs are going to be prohibitive, insurance is going to be prohibitive, and to a certain extent that is true.
Finally, the ultimate in second-hand limos, if you've got the brass. This pre-owned Rolls-Royce Silver Spirit is Y-registered, has 50,000 miles under the belt, needs a mere 19,750 to purchase, and it drives like a Rolls. It's amazing how light it is to handle and how responsive it is for a car this size.
Strange, isn't it? You always imagine them, because they're so stately, you never imagine them going fast at all.
No, but this one would really move if you asked it to.
Imagine your neighbours' faces if you moved one of these into the driveway. It'd be a similar colour to Worsley cricket green over there, I should imagine. But are they really practical to own? Ivor, can a Rolls-Royce be good value?
Well, consider this. If you buy a new Granada Scorpio now, it'll cost about £25,000. For that same price, you can buy an immaculate 1985 Silver Spirit with less than 50,000 miles on the clock. A couple of years down the road, the Granada would be worth 12 or 13,000. This would be worth much the same as you bought it for. You can either have this in your driveway or a new Granada. Put a personalised plate on it and your neighbours won't know that it's old.
Of course, you do have to do your running cost sums before you buy a prestige car. For instance, a main deal, a 24,000 mile service on this could cost you £1,200.
Still, if we can't afford to buy, we can at least hitch a lift. Home please, Kenneth.
The split-screen Morris Minor, a classic car and the first one owned by Leslie Grantham. But it wasn't straightforward, as he told the motor show.
Okay then, Leslie. Split-screen Morris Minor. When was the last time you saw one?
About 1963-64.
Yeah?
It's exactly the same, down to the dreadful pit marks on the back.
I know, it's got a bit of a pock marking, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's not
Was
the
yours
same.
this colour?
Similar, I mean, they were all pretty icky, weren't they?
Yeah, sort of grey or grey.
I think there was a lot left over from the war of paint, and Morris Minor, I think, used it, you know, they did stop making submarines, they painted their cars with it.
Yeah, it's cute though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You sound doubtful.
No, you see it now, it's dreadful.
Let's have another drop. It's a tight old squeeze,
It
isn't
certainly
it?
is. How did anyone ever conceive any children in this?
I don't know.
No. Anyway, we won't go into that.
So what's the story then, Leslie? Tell me about buying one of these.
Four of us, we bought a car. We decided we were going to buy a car.
What did you pay for the car?
I think it was either £28 or £26, 28 or 36 or something like that. But it worked out that I know I put £8 in, and that was slightly less than everyone else. And we went off and did all the things that that guys did when they were 16 or 18 or what. And pitch black and driving back, and the driver stopped. I said, "Okay, see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock." Right, fine. Leslie's place. Went on a bit further, the next one got out. See you tomorrow, Leslie's place, 10 o'clock. I thought, nice, she's going to drop me home. I said, it's very nice, Bit further, he pulled in, it's his place. And he suddenly got out to the house, the keys. He said, you take it home and we'll see you tomorrow at 10 at your place. And by the time it's all registered on me that I couldn't drive, he'd gone. So I didn't want to lose face, so I sort of turned the key and made a terrible noise and crunched a bit, and I had to go 4.5 miles. I think I did the first 150 yards or 500 yards in reverse, because I couldn't get out of reverse.
Yeah, so you weren't impressing the girls then in the moggy?
No, I never impressed the girls. I can't now, you know. That's the story. My life I've always been unlucky. I had a rocking horse once, it died.
Oh, no.
Paris, Marseille perhaps, actually San Francisco and the eccentric members of the Arcane Auto Society. But behind every offbeat classic, a sound reason.
On est français. Ma mère, elle est française, et j'adore la France. And that's the biggest reason. And I feel a kinship to the French, and I am Francophile completely.
We bought this in northern Germany, and we took it directly to the boat and shipped it to the U.S. So it was brand new when we got it here.
I bought it 21 years ago in the Dordogne region of France, and I looked up the old farmer that I bought it from. He's 75 years old now. It was 21 years to the week that I bought the car. I showed him pictures of the car, and he was very excited that we came to see him, and we had a great time. French cars are the most wonderful thing to collect because you can drive them and show off.
The Arcane's English fans aren't averse to showing off either. No stiff upper lips here.
British cars do something for me that I can't quite explain. I've had German cars and American cars and Italian cars, but my first love is English cars. They smell right, they drive right, they're just right.
But some of them didn't sell too well in California.
What they said was made by thousands, sold by the half dozen. Everybody likes it, it's cute. It's a cute little car.
But there are cuter and littler cars in the Arcane Club.
This one that I have now is actually a really rare one because they only made 50 of them. And it's a complete convertible, and it's bubble window, and I love it. It's great, lots of fun. I've seen people walk into poles while they're looking at me in my car, and sort of get close to my car while they're driving and things like that. So I have to be extra careful while I'm driving, but it's fun.
Well, to be a member of the Arcane Auto Society, you need to have a car that is so unusual that the average person would say, what is that? What kind of a car is that? Which is why we have our slogan on our shirts. President's duties is to be the only person that does anything and has to write the newsletter and make all the phone calls and sit down and say, we haven't done anything in a couple of months. I wonder where we should go next.
And one particular member has a much wider choice of where to go than the others.
About 10 years ago, 83, we had a huge flood, and I lost my car. It doesn't float for 5 days. Volkswagens float, but not that long. And the joke was that I needed to get one of these amphibious cars. And one night, a friend of mine called up and said, found one for you in the Sacramento Bee. Go down there, give them a call. So I did, and found that. It's not a very good car, and it's not a very good boat. It handles basically like a 1950s European car, which is to say a lot of oversteer, swing axles, sort of rear engine, terrible brakes, and then it handles about like that in the water, and love it.
After the break on the motor show, average family cars after a not-so-average adaptation job. We go to Oulton Park to race with the Thunder Saloons. It's early Saturday morning at the racetrack. The venue, Oulton Park, Cheshire, the fastest track north of Watford. The star of the meeting, the Thunder Saloons, Britain's fastest saloon cars, the wild offspring of your everyday family car. Today is the second round of the 93 Thunder Saloon Championship. Big and brash, they reach speeds of 180 miles an hour, so anything under 2-litre engine capacity can forget it. This race is for the big boys. The motor show caught up with them at the early morning practice run to meet the good, the bad and the ugly, and to find out why they Thunder Saloon. Because it's not cheap. Most Thunder Saloons do about 2 miles to the gallon. That's less than a lap per gallon here at Oulton Park. Running up their debts we found in the Ford Escort Cosworth family man Gary Ward, and a couple of likely lads in their Toyota Supra V8, Hugh and Simon. They're here along with 10 others to take on Pete Stevens, defending champion, in his Vauxhall Carlton.
I mean, we've been in the racing game now 20 years, and we've been lucky that we have had the breaks, and we've got sponsors like Mobil, Certec and Dunlop. But it's what we've worked for. I think the lads who help me, they do it all free of charge. You know, it's not that I pay them fantastic wages or anything. We're just keen, and we want to win. But some of the cars out here today, they're a lot more expensive, and I'm sure just as much effort goes into preparing those cars as what we put into our car.
So it's down to driver ability then?
Obviously, I'm merely the monkey behind the wheel. It's preparation.
With modesty like that, who needs sponsors? Well, Hugh and Simon do. They usually have a whip round for petrol money. Where will you be on the grids?
I think we're about 9th on the grid, aren't we? But it's going to be very difficult to keep pace with any of them, with missing the one gear that we really need round here.
How soul destroying is that when you come all this way and put all the effort and money into it?
Well, I suppose that's the reason we're going to give it a crack. You know, it's even worse when you have to put the thing back on the trailer before you actually get out. So, as long as it holds together, we're going to do the best we can to finish.
Gary Ward takes Thunder Salooning more seriously, and so does the family.
I brought up 2 nice boys because I've given them interest early in life, from the age of 13, although one of them didn't want to drive competitively, the other one does. And it's all done as a family, and it's done as a family thing right from the start.
Right. How important are you, though, to Gary's success, do you think?
Somebody has to feed him.
How proud of him are you?
I am very proud, yes, very proud, yes.
Why?
He's done it for so long, he's tried so hard, and everybody is sort of dedicated to it.
The Thunder Saloon Championship is a 2-race format with a 15-minute break, so if you don't win the first time, you get another chance to kick yourself. The motor show sensed a lot of tension at the start, with costs probably around £35,000 and the current business climate where sponsors are hard to come by. Today's £5,000 prize money could come in handy. After the practice, Gary was 8th on the grid, so he had a lot of pedal work to do. Hugh and Simon had broken the piggy bank to buy a new set of wheels that morning, so they were on for nothing less than a win. But Pete Stevens won't give up so easily. Gary was looking hopeful, coping steadily, and after 3 laps he'd begun to creep up by 2 positions. Despite losing a gear, Hugh and Simon started to prove their worth. After gaining those 2 positions, Gary began to slip, losing speed, and neither he nor Simon were able to advance on Pete Stevens, leaving a comfortable first race for Pete. Gary and Simon were still in the offing, both having gained position, until we saw the worried faces in the Gary Ward garage. Stephen, you're looking despondent. What's the problem?
The head gasket's gone, so I don't think we'll be out for the second part of the race.
That's it finished?
That's it finished, yeah.
Well done. You didn't quite manage to finish 5th. You came in a couple of places up though, didn't you?
Yep.
Now how do you feel?
Terrible. Absolutely had it. I think the head gasket's gone.
Yeah.
That's how they keep telling me. But it's very disappointing, all the work we put in. But if I carry on, that'll probably suit.
Commiserations to Gary, but it was on with the race and everything up for grabs again. Pete Stevens began to make his presence felt, nudging his way through to the lead and onto a very confident win. No remortgaging the house for Pete or a whip round for the petrol back home. Well, not this week anyway. Thanks very much. There you go. Great race, well done. So, the end of a great day's racing here at Oulton Park. You don't have to be a millionaire to take part in this, but if you want to take it seriously, you do need a substantial sponsorship or a second mortgage. So the ones with the money will be travelling back in style, and those without will be hitching up the horse box and hobbling home. And whether they're going with tears or trophies, they had a thunderous good time.
C600 JG. Wow, excuse my language. I'm close to that one in front.
Look at that! That's outrageous.
Road rage is a kind of altering of personality that occurs when somebody gets behind the wheel of a vehicle.
The best way I can describe it is impatience. Impatience
not anger so much. I think I'd regard it more as impatience with other road users.
I think I was a victim of road rage for the simple reason some people take it on themselves to decide that they own the road, and if they see a woman driver, you know, something else just takes over.
When we've investigated and took statements, we've found that the alleged witness or victim in fact has caused most of the aggression by their own driving. In other words, they've been staying in the second lane at 50, 55 miles an hour with trucks and lorries piling up behind them trying to get past.
1955 Mike 2, go ahead.
So we've got a situation here now. We've got a funeral car up front who intends going on the 62. And we've followed him now for just over 2 miles at between 50 and 54 miles an hour. He reached 60 coming downhill. We're climbing uphill and he's still in the third lane. And so we're now going at 50 miles an hour behind a funeral car. And if that's not stupid, I don't know what is. That's an example of what gets people agitated.
Generally, it's bad driving that can trigger off most incidents of road rage. Middle lane hoggers, people who cut in traffic, people who fail to indicate, people driving either too fast or too slow.
I was travelling down dual carriageway going home to Oulton and realised that I could overtake this wagon on my left-hand side. But as I started overtaking him, he decided to accelerate when I did and then slow down when I did. Consequently, I could see my lane closing, and the safest thing to do was to go onto the grass verge.
Strangely enough, I used to actually take it personally on occasions, which with hindsight is quite ridiculous, but that's how I felt at the time.
Gosh, Drew, that was close, wasn't it?
Is it worth risking your life or somebody else's life or your liberty or your property to make sure you beat the next person to the set of lights?
Ultimately, it led to me being convicted of dangerous driving. I was banned for 3 years, lost my licence. It had a big impact on my life. I lost quite a good job.